Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. I'm Jon Najarian, Pete Najarian joining me shortly. And boy, for what some people thought was going to be Black Monday has turned into Black and Blue Monday because we've been all over the place today, folks. But substantially off the bottom, which was close to 1,500 Dow points in the pre-market. We'll have the 411 for you right here on the Rebel's Edge. Bang. Bang. 60 seconds you need to know before you go. All right. Well, another tough day.
You like the headphones, Pete?
To be expected. How do you like the donkey?
However, what the hell happened to the poor donkey?
What's going to be key is what happens between 11 a.m.
That's why it's prophetic.
1.
Was that the start of the trading day?
That's what I'm going to be watching for because a lot of us are.
And Pete, as you'll note there, I said between 11 and 1,
Friday,
that's what we're going to be looking at because the market's going to make an attempt at a rally.
Well,
we were down 1,500. We went to positive, what, 200 or 300, Pete?
Yeah.
And
then
flipped
around about 300 points. So
tell you what.
That's what we're looking for, and we will be on with the Rebel's Edge.
The Rebel's Edge. 1 p.m. Eastern Time. By the way, I'm not going to be on with Charles Payne today.
Bang.
Because
sure you tune into both.
The markets were so crazy that Charles and his producers had to say, hey, Jon, we'll take you another day. So the next thing you know, I'm booked over on Liz Clayman's show. So I'll be on with Liz Clayman at about 3:45 p.m. Eastern today.
Nice. That'll be great. Yeah.
But wow, what a ride, Pete. What a ride. A lot of it coming, I think, from Ackman, where Ackman comes out and says, well, maybe a 90-day pause. And then people just jumped on it as if Trump had whispered in his ear, hey, 90-day pause. Trump had done no such thing. And Ackman admitted it. He said, well, I was just kind of pontificating. What if he decided to do a 90-day pause? What if the Queen had what?
Well, I'll tell you what, we now know what the reaction would be if it were real. I mean, Jon, that turn was about as sharp as we've seen in a heck of a long time. And I'm trying to go back to think of when we had one as sharp as that one. Because like you said, down 1,300 points-ish or whatever to be up in positive territory. And it was the S&P, it was the NASDAQ, it was the Dow. They all turned and burned and ripped to the upside until the story came out that, wait a minute, Trump said, did I say that?
Trump never said anything. Wow. Well, in the pre-Pete, we traded 60 for the VIX.
Yep.
60. I know we'll get to that, so I'll save a little bit of it for that, I guess. But let's talk about macro minute. And I guess we've been doing that already, but we could do this much more of the macro minute. I'm going to say a couple things, Pete. Number one, sooner or later, we're going to have the Oracle of Omaha. This is my Karnak impression, Pete. Oracle of Omaha. He is going to say, Pete, that I'm following my tried and true trading strategy, and since there's blood in the streets, so what do you think I'm doing? Selling? No, I'm buying. I'm buying it when there's blood in the streets. And I think he will, Pete. I think he actually is going to say that. I will not be surprised to hear it. He won't tell us that, of course, ahead of time. Then who would, quite frankly? But he will tell us that, I bought this X, Y, and Z, and you guys could kind of parse through your picks for what that would be. Pete and I have ours, but that's my macro, Pete. What do you got?
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. I mean, obviously the main macro that we're looking at is exactly what we started off with at the top and joked about a little bit, which is the Trump tariffs and the 100 and some odd countries that there are tariffs going on, and some of the negotiation that's potentially happening, but nothing quite like what Ackman was bringing up and some of the commentary there. But there is, there's at least some discussions going on. I think that that's probably expected to some degree, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see, after this was floated out there by Ackman, and everybody getting a chance to see that reaction, John. We kind of know where things could go under the right circumstances. If it was something, maybe it's not 90 days, maybe it's 30 days, maybe it's 60 days, whatever it is, but maybe something that pushes it out just a little bit. But yeah, I'll tell you what, to your point with Buffett, a lot of people were giving me flack because I said, well, Buffett's got this unbelievable amount of money that's sitting around now. His cash is like falling out of his pockets because he doesn't want to be in the market. And people said to me, they go, yeah, Pete, but he did miss a lot of the market. And I'm like, well, let's just use Apple as an example. When he bought it in 2016 and he started to open the floodgates and started buying more and more and more, well, he did take off more than 50% of it. And at a level, John, that from his original level of the splits and all $35, all of a sudden you go up there and he's selling some unbelievable. It's only 79 billion. I mean, that's all that he took off. Not such a bad trade. Did he get the top? No. Did he get the bottom? No. That's okay. Did he make a hell of a lot of money? He sure as heck did. So that's what we're all looking for, right? And that's why we always say you don't have to buy the bottom, you don't have to sell the top. And it's very much of a Buffett thing. It's like, you are reacting when other people are panicking, and then by those reactions, it doesn't mean you bought the low, but it doesn't mean that you can't potentially make a heck of a lot of money on it. And that's what Warren has been doing year after year after year after year for a lot of years since he's 90 plus years old.
Yeah. Well, let's go into fantastic futures, Pete. Fantastic futures, I'm going to say, well, Bitcoin traded down hard. It was down below 75,000. I didn't see it below 74. So I'll say it was in the 74,000 range. When we reversed and all of a sudden it was risk on, people were buying it all the way back up, but it didn't stay there. So tragedy struck, to quote Rosanna Dana. What do you got for unusual, Pete?
Well, I mean, the obvious is what's going on with the volatility index, John. And we've had a lot of option paper coming in there and moving around and shifting positions and buying some time and pushing it out to October from April's and all the rest of it that's going on. I think that the reality is, how about the fact that we were in the 60s overnight for the volatility index? By the time it all got shaken out, we probably 53, 54 for the highs that I was seeing in legitimate timeframes where there's a lot more liquidity and everything else, where we could really get a sense of where it was. But it's been all over the map, John. 49 up 7% was one of the numbers. The last I looked, it was up, call it 45 on the VIX. But it just shows you just how much and how fast that thing can move. And by the way, it wasn't even close to what it could have been for the VIX, given the fact, John, that we were looking at the volatility index just last week at a 45, I think is where we went out on Friday. Well, if you really take a look at that, that's a far cry from where it should have been, given the fact that the S&P was down 6%. That number should have even been higher. But it is something that's not a perfect science, but it's a very good science, gives you a little idea. And had we had the same kind of press to the downside like we did early morning today, I think that's why we were seeing the VIX over 60, John.
Yeah, it has been a volatile session, Pete. Yes. And we'll have lots more we can share with you on the Liz Clayman Show, folks, at 3:50 approximately East Coast time today. And I will point out, Pete, that as bad as it has been here, some of those trading partners around the world that have been tariffing our goods are getting killed worse.
Yep.
Take a look at Hong Kong, folks, down 13%. You think today's 2 or 3% drop or Friday's 6% drop is bad? How about 13? That's what they woke up to in Hong Kong today. So, yeah, it's a question of, do you really want to play chicken with this guy, with the president, when he's in all likelihood gonna just keep right on the accelerator and go straight down the track? I think somebody's gonna blink, Pete. I don't think it's gonna be him.
No.
All right, let's dive into Tesla, because Tesla is one of the Mag 7. Of course, Amazon, Nvidia, Meta, Apple, Microsoft, Google or Alphabet, all of those are part of that. But Tesla kind of leads the charge, Pete. And for a long time, it was substantially higher than its March 10th low, which, as I've told you guys, was 220. Well, today it got all the way down to, let me see, Pete, 214.25. Ouch. But it's right now at 226. That's still a 5.5% drop, but there's a lot of people looking around, sniffing around, thinking, this one could be one of those that goes up into the stratosphere pretty quick if we get some sort of settlement.
Well, especially, John, when you're looking at this, as you just pointed out, I mean, it was down 10% for the week, so the stock definitely got hit. It was one of the participants, like the majority of the Mag 7 or all of the Mag 7, they were going after those names in a big way. And I'll tell you what, with Tesla, it's pretty interesting, John. Down to near the lows, you said 214. I'll even use 220. 220 up to 288. That's kind of the range in which we have been of late. And I don't know. I think you're playing it the right way. Are you going to pick the bottom? There's probably no way you're going to pick the bottom. If you do, great, but unlikely that you do. But if you like what they're doing, and we know what they're doing in terms of their manufacturing and all the things that we look at when we look at automobiles and all the rest of it. But let's also remember, this is a computer company on top of everything else, as well as data, as well as energy. I mean, you name it, they've got it with Tesla. This is one of those, John, where I think that the right opportunities are there. And if you've got that inflated volatility, that actually can almost work to your benefit, especially doing some of the things that you do to try to get into a stock, selling puts like that. I always say that very quietly because people have to know what's going on in the options world to understand what happens with those puts. So don't do that unless you have full understanding of that. But also just using the buy right, which is the most used option theory, system out there. You buy stock, you sell some calls that are up above, you take in a bunch of money, and you just keep on running with the son of a gun, John. And I think that's probably a great way, if you're interested, a great way to approach something like a Tesla. That way you're not just hanging it out there for some beatings to the downside. You're putting it out there, you're selling an option against it that's maybe a couple of months out and a couple of big strikes up above. I think sometimes those are some of the best trades that we can put on.
Well, I don't disagree, and I'm sure the crowd out there, all you fans, are probably thinking, John never disagrees with Pete. I do occasionally.
Yes, he does.
But it's usually about basketball or football bets. Let's talk about Nvidia, Pete, because Nvidia, how about this for a range today, Pete? Nvidia opens today at 87, down from 94. So a $7 drop, pretty damn ugly. Lows for many, many months, but then explodes to the upside to 101. And then when it turns out that Trump's not going to pause on his tariffs, it comes back down, but it's still up on the day, almost $1 right now, 95.20. So, wow, what's going on with Nvidia here, Pete? Have they drawn the line in the sand?
Yeah, I think you got to at least keep a nice eye on it, John, for those that are probably not really willing to understand the volatility of this one. I can understand why you might want to be on the sideline a little bit longer, but I do think that there are some stocks out there. When you look at what their fundamentals look like, John, I mean, the fact that these guys have free cash flow of it's $44 billion, when you've got cash versus debt of $33 billion, when you've got a PE, a forward PE of 21, and even if you go back to this past quarter and where was the PE? It was at 32. I'd say you put all those things together and you say, hey, this is a stock that was where? 140. Where is it now? It's in double digits. It's I think there are potential for opportunities out there. Not for everybody, because it could be a very, very difficult ride. It could be a big roller coaster like today. But I think when you look at the fundamental side of this thing and then marry that with where the stock is now and where it came from, there's a lot of reasons that one, if nothing else, is one to watch and make some decisions. Maybe there's unusual options come in, whatever those decisions might make. But I mean, I think that there are going to be decisions to be made for sure.
Well, what about, Pete, what's going on right now in KWEB? KWEB. By the way, before I jump to that, Pete, your point about volatility, and we always say volatility is basically the square root of 256, which is
approximate number of trading days in the year, because at least for now, we don't trade every day. We only trade maximum of 5 days a week. So they take the square root of 256. It happens to be 16. So a reading of 16 is a 1% move. Well, so you can imagine that when we see a 60 VIX like we saw today, that's basically, 5 of those 16% moves, Pete. We're seeing 75, 80 in Nvidia right now. So that's putting in a lot of movement, and it still isn't enough because it's moved 15% today. Yeah. That's just Nvidia. All right, KWEB. These are the Chinese internet stocks. It's an ETF that contains those, and it went from 39 last week to 29 in just a very short period of time. That, my friends, is about a 28% drop. So things are getting pretty ugly over in China. And again, you want to play chicken with this president, both of you are going to get hurt. He is going to get hurt, the president of the United States, and Xi Jinping is going to get hurt. And it's okay, who can take the pain for the longest? Because you are absorbing a lot of pain right here, Pete. And KWEB, we had unusual option buying of puts, which would mean people were betting it was going down. And those people are pretty happy today, Pete.
Yeah, and when it got down to 29, John, at that level, it was the lowest it's been since going all the way back to January as well. We're talking about companies like Baba, we're talking about Tencent, we're talking about PDD. All of those are the big, the capture most of what this ETF is really created to be. And it's, Chinese internets. Yeah, we know that much, but year to date, John, it's still, even with the up and down and all the volatility they got, they're still up about 4%. This is one, however, where it could get uglier if this persists. And I'm not talking about U.S. stuff. I'm talking about KWEB and the 3 biggest that they've got within this ETF that's been built. I think this is something that they will have to pay attention to, and that will be right in front of the Chinese, because this is they're not looking at the S&P, they're looking at the KWEB, and they're like, hey, wait a minute. And there will be a little bit of an upheaval of folks that are not very happy when they're trying to look at, hey, really, what's going on, and what do we need to do to change this? And I think that will be something over the next couple of weeks that we're going to see. And it's something you and I talked about yesterday, John. I don't know that you fix this in a day. We were on News Nation yesterday, and we were talking about this. They were talking about, well, it could take 2 years. I think that's ridiculously long, but I think you could do this in a much shorter time frame. But it might take a quarter. It might take a couple of months. I don't think it takes 1 or 2 days, unless everybody says, I'm out. Well, let's end the tariffs. And I don't see that either. So I think that there's a lot of reasons why it could be bumpy for a month or two. But then I think it starts to clear up. If things go well, things will start to clear up in a big way. And that will be a huge, huge catalyst for the markets.
I agree. Well, how about JPMorgan, Pete? It closes Friday at $210 a share, roughly. It opens today at 205. It trades down to 202. Guess where it is? Right back to Friday's price, unchanged. So is what's happening in JPMorgan Chase telling you more about the market and what we could be looking for than the panic that we see in some of these high-tech stocks, Pete? That's my question to you.
Yeah, well, I think that what's going to be the thing that really flips the market around, and it kind of did it in the first quarter as well, John, was earnings. If the earnings numbers come out and they kick off really on Friday with JPMorgan and some of the biggest of the banks out there, I think it could be something that really could light a little bit of a fire underneath what the markets are dealing with right now. And it's going to have to do with, what did they really do? How did investment banking flow and all the rest of it? Jamie Dimon and the fact that they've been moving up their possibilities for recession, and now it's gone from 40 to 60% and all the rest of that, John. But I look at this as a potential positive that could be out there. And I think when you look at where JPMorgan was, were they overinflated? Jamie Dimon said that himself, and he didn't say it necessarily with his lips, John. He said it with his wallet, because he was taking off some of what was going on with that stock getting elevated as much as it did, and he was taking some off. Sounds a little bit like Warren Buffett. Stock got all the way up to 280 at the highs. So was it at all-time highs? It certainly was, and sometimes that's a little bit in front of itself. And I think that it just shows you that sometimes you got to watch what's going on, with the folks in the know. And I think Jamie Dimon signaled something for all of us when he started trimming up some of his position up there at some of those levels, John. So down here at, call it 213 or wherever it is right now, nearly 30% off. I think this is an opportunity in JPMorgan. This is one of the names that I've been looking at throughout the session today, as a matter of fact. If what we had earlier was real, that was one of the areas that I was going to look, was JPMorgan. When it turns out that it was just something that was kicked around out there with the tariffs and all, that kind of made me say, you know what, I might have to wait a little longer.
Patience will be rewarded, folks. And remember, the fear of missing out, all those folks that bought into this as it went positive, as the Dow went positive. I'm not saying that you're going to be wrong long term, but you're certainly going to be wrong short term. And you have been so far, because the Dow reversed. It didn't go back to the session lows, but it did slip about 900 points from the highs of the day. All right, let's do a little sports, Pete. Let's finish up strong with some sports.
Yeah, we're going to kick it off. I usually do with the NFL first. This time we're going to go to college basketball, John. It's Final Four. I mean, how do you not do that, right? And tonight is the game, and it's going to be really, really awesome. I'll tell you what's really impressive. We talked about this last week, the fact that there were 4 number ones going up against each other. And by the way, those were great games. I felt like every one of those games, there were stretches where one team was beating the other by a significant amount, but then all of a sudden that got closed down again. And I thought it was really, really impressive. And it's not just what I think. I'm taking a look at what the ratings were, John. The best ratings they've had in 8 years. So not so bad. 15 plus million folks viewing the Final Four. Really exciting basketball. I think it was great. You got an opportunity. Boy, that game, the game that really stood out had to be the Duke game, though. I mean, it was to see, the best player in basketball out there, and unfortunately towards the end wasn't able to stay up on his leg well enough because his knee hit the ground. He didn't look like he was feeling as great as he would want to be. Got up a little short on the shot and all, but I'll tell you what, great game. And the defense of Houston and how they play aggressive, very physical basketball, and the coach is just as physical as his players. I thought it was really a fun one, John. I thought they did a great job, and now we're down to, Florida going up against Houston. I think this could be, it would have been right no matter who's playing who. It would be just a phenomenal matchup. I think this one should be great. Florida likes to run and gun. Houston likes to hold people down. They have defense and they're aggressive. This should be a really fun game again. And I'll tell you what, don't turn off your TVs if at some point in the second half somebody's up by 10 or 12. That can change that fast, just like it did with Duke and Houston the other night.
Yeah, and I'd say, Pete, because I was watching both games, Florida, Auburn, and Duke, Houston, and Duke was beating them and beating them and beating them in the first half. And then all of a sudden, Florida turned on the threes. And when they turned on the threes from those two guards, it was lights out. Yeah. It really was. And that's when I got worried. I didn't have any bets on the game, but that's when I really got worried for Duke, because they had no answer. They could not stop, nor could they defend the guy that's shooting it from the top of the key and just draining it. They were just pumping in threes. So you can come back from 12 points with 4 shots, obviously. And they narrowed the lead going into halftime. It was still 6 points or so, I think, going into halftime. But then second half, all those threes start raining again. And like you say, Duke had been banged up a little bit. So it was a great game. I love seeing games like that where it's not just slam dunks and it's not just 3-point shooting. But the threes made a big difference in the Duke game.
I'll tell you, that Cooper Flag is so fun to watch, man. If you just isolate on him as you're watching the game and all the movement that he has, and he's unselfish, he's willing to give the ball to a guy who's maybe got a better shot usually than him. I mean, really, really special to watch that team and what they're able to do. And by the way, they do pretty well on NIL money, John. They don't do. It isn't very difficult down in Duke to say, "Hey, look, we need another 5 or 10 million guys."
5 million Cooper Flag alone, Pete.
Right. All right. So for the NFL, we got the draft coming up, and it's getting closer and closer. And I just thought I'd throw this one out at you, John. And I think you'll agree, but you'll have to tell me. So we always talk about the quarterbacks, right? I mean, everybody's excited about Cam Ward, and is he, the right guy here? Is Shedeur the right guy there, and all the rest
Jackson
of it?
Dart.
How about we forget about some of those guys for a minute? How about this? I think the two biggest impact players in the draft will go in the top 10. They're going to come from the same school. They're both going to come from Penn State. And one of them's on offense and one of them's on defense. John, Tyler Warren, the kid who's not only a tight end, he's also a fullback, he's also a tailback, he's also a wide receiver, and he can do absolutely anything. I wouldn't be surprised if the guy can throw the ball like as good as any quarterback. I mean, he's 6'6", 260-pound tight end, had 104 catches last year. 104 for a tight end. I mean, think about that just for a minute. 8 touchdowns, not so bad. And then Abdul Carter on the other side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball. I see this kid, and I stood next to him at the Gopher game this past year, and I'm looking at him just thinking, first of all, he is a big physical guy. He also has incredible speed, John. I mean, he's 6'3", 250 pounds. He brings it from the outside. He had 23 sacks in the last 3 seasons, 61 pressures this past year. He reminds me a little bit of Micah Parsons. And I'll tell you what, if somebody had to be able to do it again, I'll bet you Micah Parsons would have been a different level pick even than he already was. These guys are so good. I don't care what teams they go to. I think they're going to influence the teams that they go to that fast. It's going to be really, really quick because they are game changers. And people would probably say to me, Pete, the one guy's a tight end. How much is he going to throw this guy the ball 100 times? He's going to catch it 100 times. He's that good, and he's got it. He's got the ability to do so many different things that I think from an NFL perspective, if you're a GM out there and you're even debating it, just pull the trigger and do it, because this guy will be on your team for the next 10 or 11 years, and he will be one of the best tight ends in the NFL this year. And then year after year after year after year. So I think the world of these two players, and I think they're the two biggest difference makers in the draft. And I think wherever they go, doesn't matter where it is, wherever they go, they will change that team.
Well, the Bowers, Pete, from Georgia, the tight end, he was a special player, and he immediately made his team better, I thought.
Yep.
So I can't help but agree with you on the Warren, the tight end from Penn State. I would add Ashton Gentry to the list, Pete, because as you said to me last week, did you see his pro day? I mean, for all the world, the guy looks like King Henry, except with even more speed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the kid is just a beast physically, and he runs lower than obviously, because he's not quite the same physical size as King Henry, but he is a very special player and a real difference maker. He will not be sitting the bench at all unless it's after a 100-yard touchdown run and they need to give him a break, because that kid's not playing behind anybody that I've seen in the NFL. No. So I think he's a huge difference maker, Pete. And I think Travis Hunter, huge difference maker on whatever team he's on, because he will. I've seen him playing 3-on-3 basketball at Colorado when I've been out there, Pete, just in the gym. The kid is a beast. He can jam from, anywhere within the paint. He's going to put it up and jam the ball. He just needs one step. Yeah. So the fact that he can elevate like that, the fact that he can play both ways and have that kind of endurance, he's not going to play both ways in the pros. Nobody does. He could on specific, like in a particular quarter, could he play both ways? Yes. Is he going to do it for the whole game? No. He's too valuable and they can't risk him. But as a wide receiver or as a defensive back or as a kick return guy, this guy's special and he's a difference maker. So I think I would put Ashton and I'd put Travis Hunter on your list too.
Yeah, Travis Hunter, you're right. He's the real deal. And I'll tell you what, you're right on that running back because he's bigger than Barry Sanders, but he's got that short sort of side to him where he's harder to tackle, quite frankly, than Derrick Henry is. I mean, King Henry is big, he's going to run over people. And you're scared of him as a linebacker because linebackers have gotten too small in the NFL, and he's bigger than every one of them. Every one of them. There's not a linebacker who's as big as he is. So that's why he is the king. But I'll tell you what, this guy's physical shape that we're talking about here at Boise State, I mean, he made other teams just look bad because he's that good. I mean, the whole team. So it's impressive what he can do as well. So I don't disagree with you. I think those are two great names as well.
Well, folks, if you're blinking, you're missing a lot today in the markets. So don't blink and make sure you tune in at 3:50 on Liz Clayman's show, Fox Business. I'll be over there. I think Mark Lepresti's going to be back for the full hour on CNN, Pete, at 10 o'clock tonight Eastern time. So there's a lot of rebels on TV these days. And we really hope you join us again tomorrow for the stream show right here, The Rebel's Edge, 1 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you tomorrow.